Thank you for joining me for Church at Home with Rachel. Today we're celebrating. Today's what, Friday the 27th of May, and as you can see, I'm in my new office. I have not yet moved my books in, and I have discovered that what I thought were white shelves are more like jaundiced shelves. They need to be sanded and repainted white, so I'll get on that right away eventually. Um, Today, I would like to talk to you about my concern about a little bit of a red herring. I walked in on a conversation today between two colleagues, both ministers, priests in the church, different backgrounds, different denominations, having a really good conversation about mental health and all of the issues around this mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and a little bit about Buffalo as well. And we had some really cool conversation about mental health and young people and the development of the brain, the physiological development of the brain and the person's ability to have empathy and to think about long-term eternity and concepts like that. And it really came home to me that how frustrated I am that right now, when our neighbors to the south, the United States, in Texas in particular, where the NRA is meeting in spite of the what's just happened, um, that rather than focusing the conversation on gun control, there's a whole lot of conversation about, at least it seems to me there is, a whole lot of conversation about mental health. Did this young man have a mental health problem? Did the guy in Buffalo did the shooter have a mental health problem? They're looking into mental health. Were there red flags mentally? The Buffalo shooter, that project he did in high school that talked about death and taking lives and things like that. He was institutionalized for a minute and a half to do some further questioning. That should have been caught. How come that wasn't a red flag on his purchasing weapons, et cetera, et cetera? And it occurred to me that in a world that really does continue to stigmatize mental health concerns and really does make for atmospheres in which people who have schizophrenia or bipolar or OCD or who clinical depression or people who just struggle with melancholy or people who are just putting one foot in front of the other and trying their level best to get through the day, and things are really tough for people who are thinking about ending their lives or people who cut themselves. Um, we stigmatize them as a society. We make jokes about them. We we look down on them. We avoid them. We don't give them jobs if we're aware of their issues. We do give them jobs, and then we tell ourselves what a great job we've done for equity. Um, we don't treat people with mental health concerns very well. In Canada, we have been trying very hard to change that. Um, not trying to push, I'm certainly not trying to push this particular company, but there is a thing called Bell Let's Talk Day. I think it's in February or March. And they have an opportunity for people who are sports personalities and famous people to come forward, people who have authority, who not authority, but people who have influence over others, to come forward and talk about their own mental health issues. Because by people who are heroes, hockey players and football players and baseball players or business moguls or movie stars, by them coming forward and talking about their own struggles with their own mental health, big or small, it makes the rest of us, this normal, like the worker ants in the world, feel a lot better about saying, well, if so and so can come forward and talk about their struggles with mental health, then maybe it's okay if I do. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I'm not that strange if other people that I look up to and think are pretty awesome, if they can have these problems, then, well, there's nothing wrong if I do. I can get help too. We for so long have stigmatized people who are different, people who are differently abled in so many ways. And we need to work on changing that. We need to help people who have struggled with or continue to struggle with any kind of mental health concern, help them to realize that's just like having diabetes or heart disease or having asthma or the chicken pox, or it's a thing. And if you know that what it is and you can find help, or you can find a doctor or a medication or a therapy or a counselor or something that will help you work through that, the same way as we have puffers for asthma and, you know, encourage people to eat healthy and get lots of exercise for heart disease. What's wrong with that? Nothing, absolutely nothing. So when we do something like take someone who does something so hideous, so heinous as to go into an elementary school and shoot children and teachers after he shot his grandmother, or someone who goes into a public grocery store with the intention of killing people of a different colored skin than him, why is it okay for us to automatically or very quickly jump to, did they have mental health issues? Were there mental health red flags? As if somehow that makes it different. It makes it okay, or we don't have to deal with what they use to kill people. The conversation moved from gun control to mental health issues. There you go. It's clean and simple, and now the NRA is happy. We don't have to acknowledge that there is a gun control problem in North America because, hey, we have a mental health concern problem in North America. Hooey, that's ridiculous. That is just plain wrong. We are letting the politicians, the media, even ourselves, off the hook for gun control when we deflect the problem and start thinking about this as a mental health issue, that they're, these shooters all have mental health issues and that's where the problem lies. No, the problem lies, okay, yes, let's look at that. If they have a mental health issue, how the heck were they able to get a weapon? A legitimate question. If we recognize that someone who is unstable mentally for whatever reason, and we're aware of that, then they should not in any way, shape, or form be able to get access to a weapon, certainly not legally. And yet people are fighting against, changing the laws across the country to state that you have to be 21 to legally buy a weapon or to purchase or own a weapon. People are fighting against red flag issue, like if something comes up as a red flag, because heck, you do a background check. If I want to volunteer in my church, if I want to volunteer at my niece's school as, a chaperone for a bus trip, if I want to volunteer with Girl Guides or Brownies or Boy Scouts or coach hockey, I have to get a police check. I have to get a records check. I have to have references. If those things are acceptable for that, why would we ever think twice about having some kind of a background check on someone who wants to go out and purchase or own an instrument that can maim or kill another person? That's where the focus should be. The spotlight should be on making sure that the parents in Texas who are so up to their eyeballs in grief right now that they can't see straight, that the parents from Parkland, the families from Buffalo, the parents from Sandy Hook or Columbine whose hearts are breaking all over again because 9 years, 7, 6, 2 years, 2 weeks after the fact, when they've had to deal with that in their own homes, in their own communities, they are watching another community breaking apart again. And the politicians are so worried about keeping their big money supporters. They're so worried about keeping their position in the Senate, in the Congress, or whatever position it is they have or they want to have. They are so busy worrying about that they cannot acknowledge that simple gun control efforts could save thousands of lives. Thousands of lives. I'm not saying, and I don't think other people are really saying, that nobody should have guns, that guns should just be unilaterally taken off the streets. I think what we are saying is, I know what I am saying is that if you want to own a gun, you should have to have a license. You should have to pass a test. You should have to have some practical experience. You should be able to prove in some way, shape, or form that you are responsible enough to own and operate a lethal weapon. We want people to drive cars. We tell them they have to go out and get driver's education. They have to get a beginner's license, and they have to practice with someone else who knows what they're doing. And then in Canada anyway, we have graduated licensing where there's certain things you can and cannot do for a while until you've proven, regardless of how old you are when you get your license, until you've proven that you're mature enough and understand your responsibility behind the wheel of the car. If you have to do, and you have to have insurance. You actually have to go and have some company that you pay look at you and say, yeah, you're a good enough risk that you can do this, that will allow you to do this. Because in Canada, you can't drive without insurance. You just can't. So if we do all of that to simply be able to put somebody behind the wheel of a car, what is wrong with a young person or any person of any age having to provide ID to go and take a course on gun handling and prove that they can load and unload and make safe a weapon properly, can show a professional through that training that they are not dealing with any kind of mental health issues, but they are also not dealing with any kind of narcissism or ideological brainwashing in which they believe that they need to go out and kill people who are different than them. That's what some of that training is about, is that the instructor is able to see you and listen to you and see what your mindset is about this weapon. Do you respect the weapon, or do you expect that weapon to make you the man? Things like that. If you're not willing to do those things, to have background checks, to be able to have a license to purchase or a waiting period to purchase, why do you want a weapon? If you can't wait a few days, if you can't wait and provide that kind of proof that you are responsible, then what makes you think that you are responsible enough to own a weapon, let alone use one? This is not about mental health issues. This is about gun control and understanding, not that guns shouldn't be around, but recognizing that if they are, they need to be respected and they need to be treated with such care and respect that those who own them and those who have access to them know that they are not meant to hurt other people. I know I might sound Pollyanna, but we got to do something about this. This is what we're doing is wrong. We should not, it is wrong to blame this on mental health or to shine the spotlight on the potential mental health problems of mass shooters, when what we should be shining the spotlight on is how is it that mass shooters are able to get their hands on such weapons and then be able to do mass destruction. That's my thoughts. That's what I'm thinking. And I know I come from this world in Never Never Land, north of the border, where things seem to be all wonderful and awesome. But it's a concern I have, because if it's happening south of the border, you know it's probably going to happen north of the border too. And we're all in this together. So how do we figure out how to handle it together? Just one last thing. If you're struggling with mental health issues or concerns, big or small, reach out and get some help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. And if the person you reach out to acts like there is, then find somebody new. Because you are loved and you are worthy of health, and you are worthy of knowing that there is nothing wrong with who you are, even if you have hiccups in your health. Please have a good weekend. Be safe. Hug your kids. Keep them safe. If you don't have any kids, go and find some nieces or nephews or somebody that you can give a hug to, or just reach out and tell someone you love them, because sometimes we're seeing sooner, and we're seeing more and more. Sometimes you don't get the chance. So reach out to your loved ones and tell you love them. Don't take it for granted that they know. I know the families of those children are wishing they could have given their children one last hug and one last I love you. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again Sunday for a mini church for the wee parish, or Monday morning for Church at Home with Rachel. God bless you.